I'm very happy to see in the back coming towards me my next speaker, who's been logistically challenged on his trip here. But this is Tom Carroll. Good to see you again, Tom,
Good to
by
see
the
you
way.
as well.
Tom is the Executive Director and Head of Corporate Research and Strategy, EMEA, for JLL, which is Jones Lang LaSalle. Tom is specializing in the provision of insight and strategy support to corporate clients, and his clients include companies like Deutsche Bank, Microsoft, P&G, UBS, the list just goes on. Anyways, he's developed a number of white papers on the workplace and in the future of work, and he's here to share some of the perspective, from the corporate real estate market and the information that they're looking at when they look at the workplace. Tom, thank you very much for braving all the transportation and getting here.
Pleasure. So as Bob's mentioned, I'm particularly glad to be here today. I flew in just this morning, and I can tell you it was a bumpy landing at Schiphol this morning. So I'm particularly pleased to be with you all to share some of our research into the digital workplace, I guess. We survey, and it was great to see already this morning in the other sessions that I've seen some great data already that's shaping the discussion here, that's shaping the evolution of smart buildings as well as an industry. So what I wanted to share today is just some of the data that we've created, the research that we've done with leading corporate real estate decision makers. So the individuals that are making the decisions about corporate real estate and workplace investment, the ones that are often doing the implementation and working to really create those digital and smart workplaces. So I'm going to share some of the trends here today. So firstly, a bit of a sort of big quote to start the presentation, but what I kind of want to get to a little bit today is that smart workplace and the investment in smart buildings and digital workplaces is not about technology, it's about people. What we're increasingly seeing, and one of the reasons I think we're at a positive point in the evolution of the smart building environment, is that we're seeing a confluence of experience and trying to create an improved employee experience, and technology being a great vehicle to help drive that. So what is it all about? It's about really a range of trends that we're seeing, and we'll come on to look at a few of these today. So, mobility, flexibility, we're seeing all these trends, and that have been talked about already today. We know the broader dynamics that are shaping employee behaviour within the offices, and there's some great research out there already from other organisations about how the environment is becoming augmented, human plus. So there are a range of different drivers here that are shaping the workplace environment and ultimately the digital workplace. But there are also some real challenges. Now, we've surveyed over 7,000 employees, different sectors, different industries, different geographies, to understand what's their experience of the workplace. Are they having a good time? Does it meet their needs? And the answer is not really. There are a lot of challenges. So you can see engagement levels still pretty low. You can see that for a large proportion, they're saying their workplace doesn't allow them to work effectively. I smiled at the comment about the meeting room experience because we've all been there. We know how frustrating that can be when the technology doesn't link up and it takes an extra 10 minutes to start your meeting. This is something that really frustrates employees. So there's an opportunity here. Employees are not 100% comfortable with what they're getting from the workplace. So digital workplace and smart buildings can really help shape and improve that. And I mentioned that confluence. What we're beginning to see when we have these discussions and we look at the data is that enterprise strategy is converging with the employee strategy and needs. So you start to get a positive alignment around outcomes and objectives. So what does the employee want is potentially really well in alignment with what the enterprise wants in terms of performance. And one of the big pieces we're starting to look at is human performance in the workplace. How is that positively impacted by the workplace, but also by technology, because it's such a huge factor, as we'll have heard throughout the sessions today. So there's another really big theme that we're seeing at the moment. One of the big areas that we're talking about in our space is the rise of co-working and flexible workspaces. It's been a huge driver of activity in our world over the last number of years. And what does that mean? Ultimately, office space, the workplace, it's becoming a consumer product, and this has not been the case in the past. In the past, it has been real estate directors create the space, or real estate developers create the space, and they will come. There has not been a detailed and granular understanding of employee needs and preferences, and then a strategy and solution built around that. But that's changing because we know that's not the reality in how we consume all types of products and services and how we engage with all types of companies. There is a heightened expectation across generations of an improved experience in the workplace. So again, huge opportunity for smart buildings. So we've surveyed over 560 global corporate real estate decision makers, and this is the data that you're going to see today, and I'm going to run through some of this. So what is the current state? You can see that we are, really not quite where we need to be in terms of, the budget. Now, the budget's really important, because ultimately there was a comment made earlier, if it's not in the budget, it doesn't get implemented in terms of strategy. That's still a big issue, and we'll look at that. Now, there's also a lot of caution. 45% of CRE is cautious about technology, and there are a number of reasons for that: cost, risk of failure. So there are, lack of expertise, and we'll look at some of that. But more positively, when we looked over the next 3 to 5 years, technology is going to be the top investment priority for corporate real estate as we go forward. I would say that's possibly 5 years later than it should be, but anyway, we're in the right direction, and there is a serious focus now. There's also a real understanding that the skills and expertise do not exist in-house to develop this type of smart integrated workplace ecosystem. And there's a lot more aspiration to use service provision, external providers and experts to bring them in and really kind of drive things forward at pace. And also, one would expect there would be collaboration between IT and corporate real estate, but not always. That is going to increase significantly, which again should bode well for the smart building implementation and sort of smart workplace adoption. Now, in this survey that we did of 560 global corporate real estate executives, we were able to isolate a top 20%, which we've categorized as kind of future fit, who were the real high performers. And you could notice some different characteristics and behaviors. So when I talk about future fit, this is what I'm talking about. And we correlated this. Those organizations that have got what is in our view the right characteristics and kind of elements in place within their wider strategy are actually more profitable over a 3-year period. So we did some correlation analysis there. So that's what I'm talking about when I talk about future fit. Now you can see here where are we in terms of smart workplace investment within the real estate executive community. So you've got a lot within the future fit. They're already piloting, adopting apps. It's as you would expect, very well advanced. They're already heavily invested in IoT. Much more likely to be early adopters of technology. So you can see the types of organizations that are going to be within this space. Plans to invest a lot more. But there is a disconnect, right, with the wider market. And I think ultimately, I often ask myself, why hasn't this space moved quicker? Everyone gets the potential that this could bring to the smart workplace and an integrated and improved experience for employees. Why is it taking a little bit too much time for some of us? And I think because there's a large rump chunk of the market, if you like, that are moving at a much slower pace. There was some interesting analysis just in the last presentation on the SME and the sort of ability and willingness to invest and adopt smart workplace. I think what you can definitely see here is that there is this distinction between those best in class and the wider market. So more positively, across the piece, we expect to see improved collaboration with IT, and increasingly we see a kind of the emergence of a kind of 3-point kind of group: HR, IT, and corporate real estate, driving improved outcomes in terms of digital workplace and smart workplace adoption. Now, the biggest level of collaboration internally is with the IT team. As I say, that's not always been there. You hear lots of stories of disconnects and silos, but more positively, there's a lot more integration occurring in that space. I mentioned also earlier outsourcing growth, the use of external providers, and openness to bringing in external solutions. this is the area, where we surveyed one of the areas where we saw the highest rate of outsourcing growth going forward. So an opportunity again for those that are able to, partner and help some of these leading corporates globally with their technology and smart workplace adoption. Now, I wanted to pause on constraints as well, because again, this goes some way to answering the question about why hasn't it moved quicker. Now, I guess if you put budget on any list of constraints to activity, it's going to be ticked. But I do think that there is a fundamental point here that across both the future fit and the wider market, we see quite a clear challenge still with allocating the appropriate budget and financial resourcing to drive smart workplace adoption. Now, anecdotal examples from our smart buildings and workplace teams would absolutely underpin that as well, that we are still seeing a lot of challenges and people trying to refine and understand what is the right and appropriate and sustainable level of investment to create some outcomes that will help drive, let's say some momentum behind, an integrated smart building strategy. But you'll see as well that there are different levels of sophistication. So on the one hand, if you're looking at the wider market, people still struggle for alignment, strategic alignment with leadership. They still struggle with the investment levels and basically their ability to influence change. That's not an issue for those in the future fit. So again, if you segment the market, you've got different levels of maturity is basically what we're seeing. With the future fit, they're struggling with the kind of cultural barriers and adoption in different markets and in different geographies. They're struggling with some of the kind of integration, but also skills and knowledge. And I think this is, again, something that I wanted to talk a little bit about today. In the real estate space, we're really at the beginning of bringing in a much wider range of skills that will help move this forward at pace. Because, to this point, it's not always been there. So on budgets, which again are fundamental, when we asked, where does CRE technology sit in your investment priorities, you can see not a particularly positive message in the status quo, but a positive trajectory of change in terms of rank over the next 3 years. So CRE technology will be the number one investment growth focus area for corporate real estate teams over a 3-year period, which is a great thing for the wider smart building and smart workplace industry. That there is a shift, and we've done lots of research in the past that looks at why there's been the hesitancy and the kind of different pressure points. We'll look at some specific areas of technology in a minute in terms of where that investment and allocation will go. But again, I think there's still a big issue around attitude. So we are still having to convince and having to work with a range of different clients to take them over this cautious kind of hump that is kind of constraining the pace of change in the industry. You've got, again, and you see the split. You're much more likely to have an early adopter mentality if you're in that future fit kind of grouping. But it's important to say that there is still a lot of caution in the market, and I know for those of you on the sort of sales side, you'll see it every day, and it's something I guess in the industry we work through that we're still trying to work out how we can position this for widespread adoption at scale across the enterprise and smaller enterprise segments. So in terms of the specific technologies, we asked them, where are you investing? Where are you adopting? And again, I've seen already some great research on this today. But these were the answers. And perhaps as you might expect, those that are really at the kind of sharp edge of the kind of maturity curve, they're already all over a lot of these different areas of technology. So we asked them, are you already adopting in pilot or planning to adopt? And you can see at the front, so that's workspace and employee experience apps. So an apps is missing off the far slide. So that has been a key area of focus and often seen as the solution to implementing smart workplace. Again, we're just working out really what is the purpose around some of those, and what are the outcomes you're looking for, and is that really the key to success? But you can see here a range of different technologies that we're seeing in terms of, and this was, again, those 560 global CRE directors, where they plan to adopt and invest. But the gap is interesting, right, between those kind of more mature and the wider sort of 80%, if you like, of the market. And I think you can see there again where different areas of focus are kind of placed. But we do see progress, and we do see a lot of interest and engagement about how do you solve some of those implementation challenges. And that is what I think our teams on the ground are seeing a lot more of, the discussions about how do you bring through the sort of shorter timeframes for adoption and implementation and actually execute, rather than just months and months and beyond of strategy work that doesn't necessarily land. So I think we are seeing some positive evolution on the ground from what we hear from the teams. So final kind of sort of couple of points from me. There is a really big shift in the required skills around implementing digital workplace. So I would just say, don't necessarily expect that your corporate real estate partners, wherever you may be engaging with them in whatever way, have the skills and expertise within their team to really kind of understand the benefits or how to implement and execute on some of this adoption. So what we're seeing, we've got lots of data. We asked the teams, what's your dream team of CRE professionals in 2025? There was AI analysts, there was a whole load of digital and data roles. And increasingly where we see this going is an alignment of some of that traditional real estate kind of experience and skill set, along with a softer hospitality side, so really driving that human experience, and then of course the fundamentals which will drive so many aspects of the real estate lifecycle going forward, from facilities to operations to portfolio management to building systems. Crucially, that data, digital and analytics skill set within the wider teams. So just a run through of some of the trends and data that we're seeing, and happy to discuss further on the panel in a moment. But that's it from me. So thanks very much.